Hacksaw. 2x4, it is Hacksaw, tough guy. No one is the Hacksaw Hour. 2x4, it is Hacksaw, tough guy. No one is the Hacksaw Hour.
What's up, everybody? It's Marcus D'Angelo, and we're back for another episode of the Hacksaw Hour. And of course, you know who this man is here right beside me. That is WWE Hall of Famer, Glens Falls' finest, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Jim, how you doing, man?
Well, Marcus, you know what we got to do, brother. And if you're going to hoe, kid, hoe like you mean it, baby. Ho! You know my deal. I said everybody should start the day off with a good hoe.
There's no better way to say. That's better than Folgers in your cup, man. That'll get you going. Ho's got a little bit more of like a manly feel to it, right? Feels like you're gonna chop down a tree.
Like that. Everybody likes to hoe.
Everybody likes to hoe, and
hey, knock it off, brother.
I gotta behave myself. I know my wife can't hear me, so I'm safe.
Oh, not like she doesn't know, my friend. I've got.
Well, look, Jim. You know something else that makes me glad. I'm glad that I'm here recording with you. But something else that makes me glad is that you're doing okay. You know, it was all over social media. It was all over wrestling news that you had a little bit of a health scare here recently. Hoping you can talk to us a little bit about it.
Yeah, and at an unbelievable, horrible time. You know, we were up in upstate New York, up in the Adirondack Mountains. And we have a little cabin on this lake. My dad bought back in the 50s. And we were on vacation and had an appearance in Glens Falls for the local high school, a charity event at the fire department to raise some money for the local high school, Old Glens Falls High. Yeah. You know, so we had that on Friday. So Thursday, Deborah's like, man, you should probably go to the hospital. I had a high temperature. I felt bad. I'm like, no, we'll do the appearance. You know, we got there Friday at the Glens Falls Firehouse, Ridge Street Fire Station. They had Hacksaw Jim Duggan Day. The mayor was there, all the local papers and stuff. The firemen made me a member of their local Hall of Fame. Because when I was in college back in the day, I was a summertime fireman, which is a whole nother story. We'll have to talk about that. That was a great time. But we had a nice event. A lot of folks from the high school, a lot of folks from Glens Falls and the surrounding Queensbury, the surrounding community. They came. 2-hour autograph session. About an hour and a half into the autograph session, the chief, fire chief, whichever goes, maybe you should go to the hospital. And I said, yeah, maybe I think I might go to the hospital, chief. He said, well, get in the ambulance. We'll take you to the hospital. I'm like, no, I don't want to get in the ambulance. He said, well, follow it over and we'll get you to do it. They took me to the hospital. So they go in and my white blood count was off the charts. And they said, well, we got to have surgery. I mean, right away. Oh. I'm like, I can't go home. Can't get back to South Carolina, even though I love Glens Falls. You know, I know all my health professionals here in South Carolina. And they're like, no, we got to get this heart medication that I'm on. As soon as we get that out of you, we're going to have the surgery. And so I had a thing called a pararectal abscess. You know, you understand the heart deal. You understand the prostate cancer, which it is prostate cancer month. But a pararectal abscess, I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like an internal cyst that was driving my white blood count out. And it's right there by my butt, man. And so we had to have surgery. They had me in the Glens Falls Hospital for, I think, 3 or 4 days. And everybody up there was great. They treated me really, really well. But I was able to have the surgery. I was able to fly home. It was a rough flight, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I'm glad there wasn't a whole lot of turbulence.
Oh, jeez.
But anyway, got home and took a week off. But this week I'm going up to the Hamilton Comic Con, and so things are going real good. But Marcus, as we talked before, and all these health issues, I kind of feel like I'm in the ring doing this deal. 1, 2, ho, USA, USA. I'm like Tinkerbell. The more you cheer, the better I do.
We cannot keep Jim Duggan down. And let me say, on behalf of all of our listeners, I'm sure all of your fans out there, so glad that you're doing okay, Jim, and managed to kick out there too.
Thank you, my friend. I tell you, just one other thing, but just, keep your head up. I mean, all these health issues, compared to many, many folks, I'm a lucky guy. You know, earlier this week, I said to you, you were able to post that picture. You met my oncologist, Dr. Butler. We have my checkups. I'm at every 3 months now. You know, I was at every month for a while. So stay on top of things, man. They can keep you alive. That's for sure.
Absolutely,
Mr.
folks.
Joke, a lot of the folks that go, Hacksaw, you look pretty rough. I said, compared to some of the guys, I look really good.
Look, I'm as guilty as anybody as a guy where my wife's like, "Hey, you should really go see the doctor." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I feel good." But really, I mean, the older you get, you're right, Jim. People have got to stay consistent with checkups.
And like I said earlier, this is prostate cancer month, and I had no symptoms at all. I had zero symptoms. And the doctor comes in and sits me down and goes, "Mr. Duggan, you have the most aggressive type of prostate cancer you can have." Oh my God, terrifying, And
Yeah.
so we went and had the surgery, had the prostate removed. We waited a month. They tested me. "Mr. Duggan, you still have cancer." Oh my God. We're going to have to do 8 weeks of radiation. I think I posted one time, I was really upset feeling sorry for myself. Why is all this happening to me? And then the next day I was sitting across the young woman going through chemotherapy, and I said, "Hey, I don't have things so bad. Thank the Lord, it's just radiation. So get your checkups." Here I am still kicking.
You're a lucky
Even
man.
though it's like 2.5, I know what you're doing.
You're a lucky man, Jim, and we're lucky to have you here on ad-free shows. I know that the members have loved what we're doing so far, and today,
good.
Today we're going to let the members get involved a little bit with some of their questions that you're going to be answering here on the show today. So a little fan interaction. You excited?
Oh, are you kidding me? I love talking. That's why I enjoy these Comic Cons and stuff. You get there sometimes, Marcus, you're sitting next to some TV star or somebody, and he's sitting there and he's writing his autograph and hands it to the person right there. I like talking to the folks. I mean, but it's amazing. As we said before, it's humbling. If folks remember you from back in the 80s, they come up and they want to buy an autograph, at least you can say, "Hey, who's your favorite wrestler nowadays?" Have a little interaction and tell them thanks for the life that I have at 70 years old almost. I travel the world talking about wrestling. It's been a great business for me.
Man, it's so incredible, and such an incredible response we got whenever we put out for these questions. So we'll get to as many as we can, folks. And without any further ado, let's jump in. Nick Pomeroy is up first, and he asks, "How did you enjoy being King Duggan in 1989?" A little change of character for you, Jim.
Yeah, it sure was. Thanks for the question, Nick. But because back then I'm getting towards the end of my career physically, where the younger guys can do a whole lot more, and that's why I said my character in Mid-South was much different when I was the king of wrestling. In Mid-South, I was chopping meat. Me and Dr. Death, Steve Williams, Terry Gordy. I had easier street fights and lost. It was a battle with those guys, man. Big one-man gang. We had some fights. I mean, only the finish was the only thing that was a work. But anyway, you can't last 40 years in the ring chopping meat like that. I mean, it's a hard way to do it. So as evolved, my character got a little bit sillier and sillier, and we're by almost to the end where I was the king of wrestling. I joke I had the cape, the crown, the flag, the board, the thumb, the tongue, the hole, and the crossed eyes. and Chief Jay Strongbow's like, "Hacksaw, can you be a little more serious in the ring?"
You had an awful lot going on.
Oh my God, yeah, the cape, crown, flag, board, and Bobby Heenan. We were doing, I think it was primetime show. It was me and Hillbilly Bobby and Kurt and Vince, and we're there doing the show. And Bobby's like, "Vince, Duggan needs an eagle. You should get Duggan an eagle." I'm like, "Bobby, shut up."
Oh,
Give me an eagle just for a rib, man. They had Coco with a bird, Jake with a snake, Dragon with the iguana, man. They get Duggan an eagle.
Man, you hear the horror stories about having to travel with animals and the mess they'd make in people's cars and whatnot. It's like, so I don't know if I'd be.
It just, of course, I travel with Jake. I travel with Damien all the time, and so I got used to traveling with a snake, and that's the deal. Everybody go, "Well, it's not a poisonous snake." I'm like, "No, but it's 100-pound snake with a mouth like this, and it'll definitely bite your ass." Are you kidding?
Right. Jake actually told a story on our podcast about taking a road trip with you, and the snake managed to get wrapped around the gas pedal and the brake at the same time. Do you remember this?
Well, as Jake was riding passenger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's doing all the driving back in the day.
Well, of course.
But yeah, the snake did get under the bag. But I don't know if I told you the story. Did I tell you about when it got out of the bag?
No.
In the car?
No. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because now that it was a tough life for the snake. That's living in a duffel bag, and we throw it in the back of the car. And back then, we'd drive 100 miles an hour to the next town, and the snake would always try to get out of the bag. Always try to get out of the bag. And so one night, we got this great big Lincoln Town car, and I'm driving Jake, riding passenger, being critical.
That doesn't sound like Jake.
We should have gone that way. I don't know why you're going this way. We're driving, and we were late for a town. And back then, Jake and I, we had a great plan. If you're going to be late, be so late that they're happy to see you. Thank God you made the show. Instead of where the hell you guys been, thank God you guys made the show. So anyway, we're flying down the road. The snake's in the back seat, gets out of the bag. I'm driving, and we're like in Mississippi, Louisiana, somewhere. All of a sudden, boom! Snake head over my shoulder, man. And I said, they'll definitely bite your ass, And it felt a little bit like Harry Potter, right? Anyway, we're flying down the road. I slam on the brakes. We go, Arr! We go sliding into like a snucky Chucky's, Denny's type restaurant with everybody out in the out there in the rocking chairs and stuff, enjoying the day. We come crashing in. We jump out of the car. We pull open the back door. Jake and I, we grab the snake. We're fighting with a snake. We stuff it back in the bag, throw it in the back seat, jump in the car, and drive off. So I tell folks, to this day, those people are going, you're not going to believe it?
What a scene.
These two guys had a giant snake in the back of their car.
Not to mention you and Jake are both enormous guys yourself. So a couple of big burly guys out there.
Jake's a lot bigger than people realize. Jake's a tall guy, man.
Yep. First time I met him, I was like, "Holy smokes!" It's like, meeting a giant. He's, because he was always standing beside huge guys like yourself and Hulk Hogan, and so you always, you never really pictured Jake being this
size.
Guy, but
Mark said it was size is all relative. You stand next to Rey Mysterio, or you stand next to the Big Show.
there's a definite difference there.
But who are you going to get your picture with? Come here, Ray. Come here.
Next up, we've got the man, Lenny Bakken. Lenny asks, any memories of working with Bad News Brown?
Bad News Brown. Yeah, I sure do, man. We worked, Bad News was a bad guy. Yeah, he was the old school, he carried a blade supposedly, had a history of backstage action, and Bad News was a bad dude. And but I got along with Bad News. It was a good thing. But anyway, I think we were at WrestleMania in Atlantic City, and we had a hell of a match. We're back and forth, boom. I think we ended up, I hit the chair with a 2x4, and right there in the last 10 seconds of the action, all of a sudden, you can find this easy, Marcus. All of a sudden, this big, huge booger comes right out of my nose, and it's hanging there, and it's swinging back and forth. And we finished the match. And I came back, and Bad News was like, "What the hell going on? That big booger hanging." Nobody remembered nothing else about the match, but the Duggan's booger hanging out of his nose,
Did you know it was there and just let it go?
He was a little hot, yeah. Yeah, it was a pretty good hanging down there,
It fits.
And it had the going back with a ho.
It fits.
Try to do a full circle, like never mind.
Yeah, we can hold that.
Just kidding, honey. Hey.
Lenny's actually got a pretty fun follow-up for that. He says, Hacksaw, were you there when Jacques Rougeau knocked the Dynamite Kid's teeth out? And what were your thoughts on that incident? Were you present for that?
Yeah, I sure was. Yeah, that was, and that was retaliation, because many times Dynamite would come in, and because Jock liked to play cards. Some guys played cards. Jack and I, we played. A whole bunch of guys played cards. Anyway, anytime Dynamite would come in, he'd hit big, and mess with his hand, just disrespect him many, many times. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Jock could not take Dynamite on straight on. Dynamite kick his ass. There's no question about that. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he painted the guy into the corner. The guy either just kept getting disrespected and kept getting screwed upon, or he made a comeback. I don't necessarily agree with the comeback, but I think he did what he had to do. If you look at Outback Jack, the Bulldogs ran Outback Jack out of the territory. So I think Jock did what he had to do.
You know, I never heard about the Bulldogs running Outback Jack out of the territory. What happened there, Jim?
Well, I don't know the whole story there, so I may be talking out of school, but I know they would play heavy ribs where at least, telegraph, telephone, tell a wrestler. The wrestling rumor was they H-bombed him real bad where he showed up in the hotel lobby naked and, they had so much trouble that he quit the company. Now, I'm so far removed from the office, that could be way off, but that's the story I heard, brother.
Wow.
So don't take that to court, but that was the scuttlebutt anyway.
Well, Jim, the scuttlebutt on you is that you were never a guy to mess with. A professional football player, legit athlete, state champion there in New York as a wrestler. So it makes me wonder. It sounds like a lot of people were getting kind of some stiff ribs back in those days. Did anybody ever mess with you like that?
No. Well, Owen Hart.
Yeah, his were more lighthearted, I assume.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, Brett, I get along with real well. I spend time at Brett's house. He stays at my house back in the day, and I knew Owen pretty well, and actually Brett told this story at Owen's funeral, where at a hotel somewhere, and and I called down to the front desk and I say, "Hey, excuse me," I said, "is there a gymnasium close by?" And the guy goes, "You one of those wrestlers?" I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "You have a phone book in your room?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, look it up." And I said, "Hey, I spent some money at this hotel. I just want some, professional courtesy. Is there a gymnasium?" Because I'm tired of babysitting new wrestlers. And if you got a problem, you come down and talk to me. This was back in the day. I said, "You bet your ass, I'll be right down there, buddy." So I'm getting dressed, and the phone rings, and I pick up the phone. I'm like, "Ah!" The guy goes, "Sir, Mr. Duggan, I'm sorry." He said, "That wasn't me. That was another one of those wrestlers." I said, "Well," I said, "You find out who it was. Tell me who it was." So he looks over at Owen. He goes, "What's your name?" Owen goes, "Jim Powers." I'm not at Grad Powers. I don't rib. I don't like to be ribbed. You know what I mean, Powers?
What was Jim saying?
I was, 280, 275. I had a great amateur career. I had my shot put record still stands for 50 years ago. I was the first one ever to win a state wrestling championship, undefeated. So I was recruited by many high school or many universities to wrestle. Chris Taylor in Iowa recruited me to come out there to wrestle for them. And football was my main sport. But so I had a pretty good athletic background. And so, yeah, I could take care of myself, but so couldn't everybody else. I mean, it was a dressing room of a snake pit of tough guys. There was a few walk in the parks, but not a whole lot. I mean, he might win the fight. It's like, I won. I did really good.
Yeah, nobody's walking away.
Nobody's going to walk away clean. Yeah, and everybody respects that, I think. And sometimes it did boil. Surprisingly, not more often than not, because you're on the road a lot. You're all jammed in a dressing room. You all got the pressures of work, and everybody wants to move up. Everybody wants to have a good match and all that. And and then you're away from home. And sometimes you don't feel good. Surprising, there's not more flare-ups. Really is.
And we've got a question coming up here about the dark side of the ring about Matt Bourne. Before I ask that one, I do want to ask. I know that you and Matt Bourne had some backstage issues. The two of you. Was that a reaction to Matt Bourne?
No.
Okay.
Wrestler's honor.
I know that the two of you guys had some issues. Did you ever get into a backstage dust up with anybody else aside from Matt Bourne?
Not really. I had a little trouble with Coco on the bus over in Europe. Talk about picking your targets, huh?
What was that about?
We were both inebriated pretty heavily back then, and I can't remember the whole story, but yeah, we had a little dust up on on the bus, and I ran him into the side of the bus a few times. That's the day. That was the trip that he beat up Jim Troy. I don't know if you know that whole story.
You know, I've heard kind of the Reader's Digest version
That
of the
whole
story, but go
weekend,
ahead.
that was Belgium, I think Brussels. Don't again, but I believe it was Brussels. They wouldn't let the WWF back. I mean, Sean and Marty beat up or chased the bellman and the people out of the hotel. Coco and Troy had a huge fight in the lobby, tore everything up. I mean, there was a couple of fights on the street that all the bars are on. It was I think WWF got banned from Brussels for a while. You can check on that, but I think but that was the night Coco and I had a little trouble.
Next up, we've got Nathan Jones, and he asks, did Hacksaw see, this is the Matt Bourne question, did Hacksaw see the finished Matt Bourne episode of Dark Side of the Ring? If so, what are his thoughts?
Oh, I was surprised. I was happy with the Dark Side of the Ring folks. They contacted me and they wanted to do it, and they're going to do it here at the house, and they were going to pay me a nice amount. And it was, a 3-camera shoot, and they had probably 6 or 7 different guys here, and we shot for maybe 3 hours, and they used 45 seconds. But I was surprised with that. Matt and I, we definitely had trouble. One guy had a lot of trouble with, we actually had a couple of fist fights. Have you heard the story?
Go ahead and
Marcus?
tell it for our listeners that are unfamiliar. Go ahead and tell the story. I think they'd be interested.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this was back in Mid-South. We were the Rat Pack. I was a young guy. It was me, DiBiase, and Bourne were the Rat Pack. We're a heel group. And I went over to Japan. My first trip to Japan, I was able to buy a car, right? I bought my first car, my first good car. And it's sitting there, and we went out. Matt ended up he was rough on women. He would actually, he wasn't rough on women. He got arrested many times for beating women. He was a piece of garbage. I have 3 sisters, 2 daughters. You don't put your hand on a woman. That just doesn't happen. And he was after this girl in the bar. I put her in my car. Well, he spit all over my car and put a boot to it.
Mm.
And so next day we're at the Centroplex. I'm looking at my car, and DiBiase was like, "Yeah, that's a dent. That's a dent right there."
Oh boy,
he dented your car. So we're in the hallway of the Centroplex, and now we're arguing. Matt Bourne, he made a leg dive for me, and of course, like I said, I won the states. I was undefeated amateur. The guy I beat for the New York State won the Pan Am Games. I was a pretty decent amateur, not Kurt Angle type.
wow!
But I give him a match.
Yeah, holy smoke!
But anyway, so he tried to leg dive me. I just pushed it down. Everybody back then was wearing cowboy boots. I put the boots to him 2 or 3 times, so they had bing, bang, boom. And the big cat Ernie Ladd comes in. He grabbed me. That's it. Breaks it up. So I go to the dressing room. I'm in there with DiBiase, and Matt comes back in, about half hour later or something, and he's like, F you, Doug, and this ain't over. Well, back then, old Hacksaw, if it ain't over, it's time to party. Here's Johnny. Go. And I worked him over pretty good that time. And then it was 25 years before he tried to take his revenge on me when I wasn't expecting it, which is a whole nother story.
At that indie show, right?
At the indie show in White Plains, where there's 100 people there, and he's like, "Hey, Duggan, I'll hit you with a chair. You hit me with a 2x4. I'm like, "Matt, I'll go out, cheer USA. You hold your ears. We'll put on a good show." Long story short, he hits me in the nuts, gives me a shot. I'm like, "Holy shit, here we go. We're going live." I asked him, "We're going to work or we're going to shoot?" Finally, I grabbed my 2x4. He jumped out of the ring. He grabbed a chair. I grabbed my 2x4. And so I tell the referee, I'm like, "Hey, I'm old school. We got trouble. Settle it back in the dressing room." I said, "Tell him I'll finish it. I'll go to the dressing room." So I go down in the dressing room. Down in the bottom is downstairs in White Plains. And I'm all keyed up. And I know Matt, he carries a weapon. He's not a good person. Mm-hmm. And to talk bad about too bad. I have my 2x4 next to me waiting for him because I know he's coming down armed. Excuse me. Anyway, Butterbean comes up. "Hey, Hacksaw, how you doing, brother?" I'm like, "Don't mess with me, Bean!" And Bean's like, Jim, I never lose my composure like that. And I said, I'm trying to defend myself. Well, come to find out, pre-planned, pre-arranged, premeditated. This is before intermission, which all wrestling fans know. That's where you sell your gimmicks. That's where you make a lot of your money in intermission. Matt had taken, this match was before intermission. He'd taken all his gear, all his gimmicks, put in his car. So after the altercation in the ring, he never even came back to the dressing room. He went right out the fire exit, got in his car and left. So he was going to kick my teeth out of my mouth, beat the hell out of me when I'm out there working and he's shooting and, and then not even come back to the dressing room. Because if you did that to one of the boys, everybody's going to be hot at you. You know, I'm like this and boom, he takes advantage of me and works me over. He's living out of the back of his car. I got my wife and family. I'm trying to live a normal life. Yeah, I was pretty upset.
Wow. So I didn't know all that. I knew about the incident up there in White Plains. I didn't know that he had premeditated, this
He
attack.
went right to his car. He came out. Watch, he comes right out of the ring. That shows on the dark side of the ring. Comes right out of the ring. They try to put the heat on where he kicked the guy. That's why I forget it. We were in a tag team match. He kicked the guy came out of his seat. I popped him. He went down. Imagine Matt taking the cheap shot. The guy's down on his hands and knees. He kicked him and he broke his jaw or a front orbital lobe. So the guy who sued me, he sued Matt, he sued the company, he sued the building. Matt just took off, he living out of his car. The company and building settled out of court. I'm like, well, wait, the guy punched me in the face first. He came 2 seats out of his row and punched me in the face. I got a right to defend myself. But there's a big difference between justice and law. And so, and plus Matt hurt him. So they couldn't get any money from Matt. They sued me. And that was the dark side of the ring. That was a big spin, but that had really nothing to do with it. More with the fight at the Centroplex in Baton Rouge. It had a lot more to do with that than the lawsuit.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, and that makes sense. If you beat his ass all those years before, he was ready to take some revenge. But man,
oh yeah, that's DiBiase, man. Yeah, I've been known to growl when I attack.
Yeah,
I figure I'm like a kung fu guy. Yeah. Ah!
Dad has told me before. He's like, "Thank God Jim Duggan's a nice man because when he was in his prime, one of the most dangerous guys in the locker room."
Yeah, like I said, there was a lot of tough guys. But that's why back in the day, you'd be in a bar and the guy, "Hey, brother, not bad."
Let me show you a real one.
It's like a potato from One Man Gang. Are you kidding? That's why you shouldn't try, because, and back then, I tell people I wouldn't try to do a plumber's job. Plumbers shouldn't try to do my job. I mean, every night I'm throwing punches, blocking punches. It's a physical business. People are like, Hacksaw, I saw you throw a punch. You missed a guy by this much. I said, yeah, but you see, when I hit him by that much, it goes both ways.
You'll see him go flying across the ring. That's when you know it was a real one.
As Teddy, I beat the hell out of Ted. I'll tell you. Ted could really work. He's used to, he's one of the second generation guys. He's out there dancing, man. He's doing ballroom stuff. I'm like, how's it going, Ted?
Let's do some more fan questions. We've got Bryant Haremza next, who asks, was there a territory that you wish you had been able to work in? Any territory you wish you could have had a shot with?
That AWA would have been cool. I heard they flew a lot on private plane, on King Air, so they'd fly you around on that, and you didn't work all the time. Mid-South was a great place to work, but you were driving 2,500, 3,000 miles a week. It was a lot of driving, a lot of working. But I broke in Texas, and that was good. Went up to WWF, Vince McMahon, and that was a whole different kind of experience. Then I went to Hawaii, worked for Peter Maivia. Then I went to Georgia, worked for Georgia Championship Wrestling. Then I went to Pensacola, where I worked with the Fullers. Then I went to San Antonio, where I worked for Joe Blanchard, Tully Blanchard's dad. Yeah. And that's where I became Hacksaw, Mid-South, and then WWEF. So I've been around quite a bit, but I just missed like Piper's territory. I missed Oregon, and I missed that Minnesota stuff.
I'll tell you what, Jim, the idea of you working with Nick Bockwinkel, that could have been something.
Yeah, I don't know, because again, Nick is more like, I think a lot of those guys are like Duggan and shit, all these punch and kicks. That's your deal. Like Hacksaw, what is your favorite move? I said, I kick and punch.
Pretty straightforward.
I'm a brawler. I'm not a wrestler. You know, like I wrestle like Brody does.
It's funny you should bring up Brody because that's our next question. Marcus Kirahara asked, "Did Bruiser Brody really no sell an entire match with you in Houston?
Yeah.
Buck Robley was your manager."
He sure did, man. Just the guy just come in. I just became Hacksaw, working the San Antonio territory. We're at the Sam Houston Coliseum. I mean, what a hot building with, God bless Paul Bosch. What a guy he was. The last of the great payoff boys for the boys. He the last promoter that took care of the wrestlers. Really knew how to make a nice payoff. But anyway, I don't know what the office conflict was, but we're in the ring. And boom, I hit Brody. He went down and ended up just sitting there, and I grabbed him in a headlock. And we sat in the headlock for 12, 15 minutes. And the people were booing and they were hollering. And I'm like, Brody, what are we doing? He goes, I'm teaching you how to work with the office.
What does that even mean?
Well, I guess they wanted to do something. They could force him to go to the ring per his contract, but they couldn't force him to do his character. You know, I guess he wanted if they wanted the Bruiser Brody that they wanted, they were probably going to have to pay him more, or there was some kind of thing he wasn't happy with. And, you know, and that way he went to the ring, he filled his contract, but he just sat there, and I'm sure they came around and gave him what he wanted.
You'd have to with a talent like that, man. That guy was
Brody. Yeah, Brody was a great, one of the, if not the best big man ever in the business.
Did you ever see that?
It was believable, I'll tell you.
That's what I've heard. So, like, as a shoot, nobody you want to
But
screw around.
he was like Andre. He was a lot like Andre. If you didn't fight him back, he'd eat you up. He respected the guys that fought him back.
Now, did you ever see that thing between him and Lex Luger where he completely no-sold an entire match with Lex and Lex just wound up walking out of the ring?
No.
Oh, okay. I think it was another one of those situations where I think Lex is just inexperienced and Bruiser didn't really have much respect for him, and he just was not going to put over any of his stuff, and so finally Lex just walked off.
Yeah, well, I don't know. No comment.
Old school, man.
Yeah.
Richie the Heel is up next. How was Fritz and the whole atmosphere?
Richie the Heel?
His name is Richie the Heel.
All right, brother.
Yeah, and he says, how was Fritz and the whole atmosphere when you were in Texas?
Oh, I mean, what a huge gift Fritz Von Erich gave to me. Unbelievable. Here I'm playing my college football for Southern Methodist University. Excuse me. I'm playing real well. I'm thinking, hey, I'll get drafted. I'll be in the NFL for a while. Fritz comes up. He goes, you know, you might make a good wrestler. Thanks very much, sir, but I'll be playing in the NFL for a while. Boom, 77 comes up. I'm with the Atlanta Falcons in preseason. Boom, I blow my knee out. Come back a little bit too early, blow it out again. So they cut me my next year. I go up to Canada. I'm playing with the Toronto Argonauts. Finished my last game I played with the Argonauts. We played the Hamilton Ticats, Hamilton, Ontario. We're going this weekend. And I think the Royal Rumble was in Hamilton, but that's a whole nother story.
How about that?
Yeah, but anyway, so I realized I was a dime a dozen offensive lineman. I wasn't going to have any big-time career. I gave Fritz a call, and Fritz invited me down to the Sportatorium. And, of course, back then, if you weren't like Jake's DiBiase's kid, Kurt Henning's kid, if you weren't somebody's kid, you didn't get into business, you know. And I came down to the Sportatorium. I'm like, Jesus, not really what I expected. You know, it's kind of a rough looking building, all tin and everything. And went in Fritz's office and had all the pictures of all the guys and the posters. And he set me down and hit the ropes with David Manning. And Gary Hart gave me my first pair of trunks. And Gino Hernandez, gorgeous Gino Hernandez, took me under his wing. I got along good with Gino. And he gave me the gift of pro wrestling. I mean, where I think he got a lot of heat because a lot of guys are like, why is this football? It's like it is nowadays. Why is this football player in here? And he doesn't even know the business. You know, I never watched wrestling. I wasn't a wrestling fan. I mean, it was a huge gift. And that's why it took me so long to learn. It took me a while to learn the business, but I came around. But I'll always be in debt to Fritz von Erich.
You mentioned playing for the Falcons there and how you had spent some time in training camp and some preseason stuff. How things were going before your injury? Like, did it seem like, okay, like you're catching on, might even be a starter, or what was your experience?
No, I just been hanging on.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I was an offensive guard, and yeah, they had like an all-pro playing guard, and I knew they're, if I did, I'd be a year, maybe two. It would be no long-term thing. If anything, I wish I had gone straight into wrestling and not done the football deal, because I love to bust those NFL guys. Got to do a lot of charity events with them. They're like, oh, NFL world champs. Where in the world do you boys go? Well, we went to London. And I'm like, that's like going to the West Coast. You went to London. Then nobody knows Tom Brady down in Christchurch, New Zealand, but they'll go, ho!
They know Hacksaw.
And just that whole generation. Andre, Hogan, Macho, Jake. It was the golden age of wrestling.
It certainly was. And we've actually got a question about another guy from the golden age. Joel Atkinson is up next. He says,
Hi,
were you and Tony Atlas ever able to bury the hatchet or become friends?
After Legend House, I assume, yeah. We definitely buried the hatchet. Tony, I've known Tony for many, many years, not 40 years, way back in the day. I wrestled Tony hundreds of times, and I always got along with Tony, but I just couldn't live with Tony.
Ah, okay.
Me and Tony were living at Legend House together. I mean, yeah, we were very, very, very close to having a fist fight. Closest I've been probably without pulling the trigger. And Tony be a tough night at the office, But I was ready to go with him. Tony, he had trouble with everybody in the house. I mean, he had trouble. I mean, I can understand having trouble with me and Piper. We're a pain in the ass too. We could have trouble. But how do you have trouble with Hillbilly Jim and Jimmy Hart?
All right.
Yeah, he had trouble with those guys. He really added. But looking back at it, it added to the show. But I've seen him, many times since, and nothing. Yeah, it's always good to see him. At this stage of our lives, it's bygones. I think with pretty much everybody, but Matt Bourne. And you know what Matt would be doing if he's alive today?
What's that? Go ahead. I know there's a punchline.
No, my wife's like, no, don't do it.
Deborah's calling you off. All right,
My daughter's like, no.
Joel Atkinson has got a follow up. He says, "What's the worst territory you ever worked in, or wish you had never gone to?"
The Bahamas.
Okay.
I was working down in Florida. I forgot to running through my catalog of places that I've wrestled. I was in Mid-South. I'm the top baby face in Mid-South. We got a coal miner's glove match. It's Nikolai Volkov and Crusher Kuchev, Barry Darso. They come charging down to the ring. Boom, one of them hooks me. The other one puts on the coal miner's glove match. And we bumped the referee, obviously. The second referee comes down. Earlier in the night, I took a hypodermic needle, threw a whole bunch of blood out of my arm, put it in a rubber, tied the rubber in a knot, gave the rubber to the referee, right?
Uh-huh.
The second referee, he comes running down, he slips me the gimmick, I stick it in, Barry hits me in the throat, I bite it, it goes everywhere. They thought they killed me, So now I got to leave the territory. This is a big gimmick. Hacksaw's hurt. He's going to be out of the territory for a while. They're going to bring me back in the hot angle. So back then, they're not going to pay you to sit at home. So Bill Watts hooks a thing up with the Graham down in Florida. So I go down to Florida, and Kevin Sullivan, he ends up possessing me. And I'm working with Dusty down there in first blood matches. Me and Dusty are having first blood matches. And all the, I'm a heel in Florida, but all the people in Mid-South assume that I'm recovering from this horrid injury. It was,
I have seen the footage of you and Dusty in the first blood matches. I had no idea that you being possessed was part of that storyline. That's incredible.
Oh yeah, Sullivan was my manager. Yeah. I had a good time in Florida. Actually, Watts called me back, and okay, we're going to bring you back in. I'm like, things are going pretty good down here in Tampa.
Sure, I can't stay on the beach.
Get your ass back here.
Man, Kevin Sullivan is part of our network here too on adfreeshows.com. He's got Tuesdays with the Taskmaster. So guys, if you haven't listened to that one yet, go out of your way to check it out because he's got a lot of stories. Jay Martin is up next. Was there any talks of the WrestleMania main event concept when you won the Rumble in 1988? Much love, Hacksaw.
No, thank you. No, I don't. I think they were still feeling it around, seeing how it was going to go and how it would be received and all that. So yeah, and I wasn't looking forward to it. I wasn't expecting it, of course, because they weren't doing it at that time. But yeah, I didn't hear anything about it, of course.
At that point, Jim, did you feel like you had, okay, I'm reaching the pinnacle, I'm really on my way up, or was that more during your rivalry with Andre that you were like, okay, now I'm starting to make it?
Yeah, working with Andre was kind of like the pinnacle of my career. Yeah, the Royal Rumble and all that was probably the biggest feather in my cap. But I've told the story of working with Andre the Giant in Madison Square Garden. I mean, man, what a double thrill to be in the Garden and be in there with Andre. It was a lifetime thrill.
Man, absolutely incredible. And
Andre beat the hell out of me. I'll tell you.
That's what everybody says is like, Andre might like you, but he'll still beat your ass in the ring.
Yeah. I had a good relationship with Andre because way back in Hawaii, when I was a convict with the C's on my mask, right. Andre unmasked me. He pulled my mask off in Hawaii. I was working for High Chief Peter Maivia, and all the top stars would stop in Hawaii on the way back to New York from Japan. And I was leaving the territory, so they were going to unmask me. So Andre beat me up, and they pulled my mask off, and everybody's like,
just some guy from
dude.
Glens Falls.
Yeah, I'm a young kid. I'm like, oh no.
Well, Andre was a legend. This next question is about a legend too. Charlie Philbrick asks, how much fun were the Slammys brawling with Harley Race? As a kid, I was on the edge of my seat.
So I had a great relationship with Harley Race, man, and he's another one of the true old school guys that really saw the progression of wrestling from high school gyms, National Guard armies to these huge events that they became. But Harley and I, we enjoyed working together. We got along real well. We did the Slammy Awards. The Slammy, I won 2 Slammys. Yes. But I think one was for best hit and one was for best vocal. But anyway, whichever one, I'm up on stage with Bobby Heenan and King Harley Race, and I get and the Harley pushes me off camera. Well, the day before, we filmed this whole thing the day before. When I pushed me off camera, they kicking the tape. And the day before, we fought through the whole building. We went through the ticket office. We went through the cafeteria. Went through the ladies' dressing room. We went through the locker room, and we went through this one room. And it was all full of animals, and like camels and llamas and chickens and geese and all kinds of animals running around. And we're battling away, and Harley, being Harley, man, he beats Rich down. He grabs a chicken by the head, boom, 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 and starts feeding me with a chicken. He killed the chicken.
Oh, he killed it.
Oh, hell, God, are you kidding? He killed the hell out of it. Stop everything. Stop. Oh, my God, the chicken's dead. The chicken. Oh, the chicken. Or I can understand I got chicken.
Boy, that is an unusual
he
foreign
killed
object.
The chicken. Got a lot of heat. Of course, we had churches for lunch, but
yeah, surprisingly, chicken.
But yeah, we fought through the whole building, and it was so great because at each stop they'd cut back during the live show, and they'd show a little tape. They'd have Polaroids of how he looked. So, like if this part of the shirt was torn, they tore it, and then this kind of makeup was there. It was a well done show. And I tell you, if you watch that, that's something that love or hate Vince McMahon, but what a performance he did on that.
Yes, he did. Was that the same? That's the same Slammys with the dance routine by Vince, right?
Yeah.
That was something else.
Baby, watch him drop.
That's it. That's it. So you go from this nasty brawl between you and Harley Race to, like, Jake and Savage playing trumpets or whatever was going on there. It was interesting.
Yeah.
Adam Arpin is up next. Most people know the story where you and the Iron Sheik got arrested together. Do you have any good Sheik stories that we might not know?
No, that's the whole deal about it. I mean, me and the Sheik we're branded in infamy. It's just part of something that I have to embrace. It was a changing point in wrestling, the death of kayfabe and everything. But the irony is, me and the Sheik weren't friends. I gave him a ride that one day in Newark. I flew into Newark. I was pretty new to the territory. It was right after WrestleMania 3. Sheik said he didn't have a credit card, couldn't get a rental car, asked for me to ride. And I said, yeah, boom, I'm over 21. I got to eat I made my bed. I'll sleep in it. But yeah, that was the one real good story I got about the Sheik. But I'll tell you what, though, one day we're all sitting at one WrestleMania. Bruno was there. There's quite a picture. I think Deborah took us. Stan Hansen, DiBiase, Ricky the Dragon, myself, Bruno. We're all sitting there visiting. And Bruno told a story where back in the day, he was in a jam and the Sheik came and helped him out and really took care of himself. So Sheik was a stud back in the day. He just kind of fried his brain with drugs.
Yes, legitimate collegiate or rather Olympic wrestler, wasn't
Olympic wrestler. Well, another hearsay story, which I understand that one time going to Canada, he put his drugs in John Nord's bag, and Nord actually took it across the border, and she came up and was like, "Oh, thank you so much, brother," and took the drugs out of Nord's bag, and they had to send Nord home because he was going to kill the Sheik. But again, I wasn't there. That was just
so the rumor, another wrestling
story.
rumor.
I wouldn't doubt it though.
Scott Golden is next. He says, Hacksaw, was there ever any talk of you having a heel run in the WWF?
I don't think so. No. Like I tell folks, even when I was in WCW and they made me the janitor and the WCW. Jimmy was producing that Saturday afternoon show, not Thursday Thunder, not the night show, but the Saturday afternoon show. He put me in, I can't think of the Cuban Assassin against each other. It's not rocket science, especially back then. I loved to stand in front of the world and cheer USA, and people wanted to cheer USA. Not rocket science. Put me against a non-USA guy, and the place will rock. And I think Vince saw that, and yeah, even when WCW turned me heel right before they went under.
Yep.
but the people they were like, "Oh, come on, Hacksaw." They weren't like, "You dirty bastard."
Yeah, Meltzer said it was some of the best work of your career. We're talking about that soon here on the Hacksaw Hour. Matt S is up next with sort of a related question about turning heel. He said, how did Jim feel about being put in the tag team with Sergeant Slaughter so soon after Sarge hit a line with General Adnan in support of Saddam Hussein?
Yeah, it didn't bother me at all. Yeah, I was just glad to be on the show. I was glad to be part of the show. I figured as long as I had my time, I would get Hacksaw over. Yeah, I wasn't like behind the scenes guy trying to say, hey, me and Sarge would be good tag team champions. I wasn't talking to Pat or whoever. I was just I was doing my deal, and it was a good ride. I tell folks we weren't all lead singers in the band. Hogan's up there doing the lead singing. I'm back there playing the drums for 40 years.
Just good to be in the band, though.
Oh man, part of the band, baby.
Only a couple more, Jim, and then we'll call it a day here. We've got our pal Lenny Bakken again. He asks, any memories of wrestling Dino Bravo?
Dino, yeah, world's strongest man. Dino and I, we worked at WrestleMania up in Toronto. Yeah, Frenchie Martin was his manager. And I got along more with Frenchie than I did Dino. I got along good with Frenchie. Dino, we had a good relationship, but it was a working relationship. But we had good matches, good strongman matches. But But Frenchie Martin, now he would go through the X-ray machines and stuff, and he intentionally put all these different kinds of sex toys.
Just to like screw with the airport people.
Doing it like, what the hell is this thing for? And then Frenchie, and then sometimes we'd be at the carousel, the baggage carousel, and the bag. And Frenchie didn't look like one of the boys. He looked like a straight guy. Everybody else looked like one of the wrestlers.
Right.
And his bag would go by. He'd hang on to his bag, and he'd let the bag pull. And he'd take a bump, and his bag would fall open, and it'd be like a bag of stuff out of your junk drawer, batteries, and just everything goes on. 300 different things, man. Yeah, Frenchie was fun.
My God, what a character.
He had his teeth, fake false teeth. He acted like he was dancing. He do his teeth.
Oh, man. I got to hear more about Frenchie Martin down the road.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That got the whole thing done right there.
It's a hell of a guy.
Yeah, it was fun.
When you heard about the death of Dino Bravo and how he was like allegedly involved in the mob, what did you think about that? Did you ever have any idea that he was doing that kind of thing?
No, not really. No, but like I said, I wasn't close with Dino. I didn't interact with Dino that much. He did his own little deal. Obviously, like everybody else, I was shocked to hear that what a way to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea that was going on. No. But they don't smoke.
Right, absolutely.
That was the deal with cigarettes, right? I mean, he was
dealing
with cigarettes or something. Yeah.
So I think he was like smuggling cigarettes or something for the mob up there in Canada, and I don't know, must have upset the wrong person.
A little bit, yeah. Obviously, yeah.
And not a good way to meet.
But Joe LeDuc. I don't know if you remember a guy named Joe LeDuc.
I remember the name.
Yeah, he did a lumberjack deal. He was down in Pensacola with me and the sheep herders. He had something. He got worked over by the mob. I think he got beat to death up there in Quebec.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Joe LeDuc. You might check on that, Marcus. But yeah, he did the lumberjack deal. He was but I think he was like an enforcer or something. Yeah, obviously the mob was much involved.
I guess you got like some big guys who can make money with their bodies. Some of them are gonna do some lawless stuff. It sort of makes sense, I guess. Wow.
What are you talking about, brother?
Not you, Jim. Two more and we're out. A wrestling historian asks, what was your favorite match in WCW? Thanks in advance. Any match stick out for you?
Geez, WCW.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe when I beat Stunning Steve Austin so bad he had to shave his head and change his name.
That's a good one.
And I beat the hair right off the boy's head. But yeah, nothing iconic like being with Andre at Madison Square Garden. Like I said, that was kind of the pinnacle of my career. Yeah, a lot of great matches at WCW. Me and Big Boss Man, or it was Big Bubba down there, worked well together. The old tape fist stuff, I enjoyed the tape fist. That was kind of weird.
Those vignettes of
you in Ireland. I'll be like, nope.
Jim, have you seen it's called a GIF? There's a GIF of you out there, of you doing that, but it's only you from like essentially like your belly button down, and they show you sitting in the ring, and you do this, and they show you reach down, and when people use this thing online, the implication is that you're touching yourself inappropriately. So, I've got to show it to you because it is so.
I thought
funny.
That was appropriately. It's inappropriate.
I mean, if you're getting the tape, it's appropriate. I think it's fun.
That wasn't tape.
Last question. Well, before we do move on, let me say, Jim, I thought for sure you're gonna say your favorite match was you and Ming in a martial arts match. You remember that?
Kind of, not really. Yeah, working with Ming. Yeah, probably I was knocked out more than half of it.
I don't think there were any martial arts involved. I think it was just a straight up brawl.
I know. I'll tell you one time when I was the king of wrestling in WWF. Ming, I'm no longer than anybody else in the business.
Oh, really?
I met Ming in 1970. He was Tamatanga in Hawaii, working for Peter Maivia, and we were making $40 a week. We're all living in the same horrible motel. It was horrible, but me and Haku, out of all the guys who were in that, they're all gone. They didn't make it into business, but me and Haku. So I've known Haku for longer than anybody. But anyway, I'm the king of wrestling. And we're coming, WWE and the WCW are starting to have their big war going on. We come in the Omni in Atlanta. It's a big show. And where it's me and Haku, and I'm the king of wrestling. And I come down, and for some reason, man, I got that big purple cape, and I come up and I go like this. With the purple cape hanging down. Yeah, cool. It's just one of those things that hit him giggling, you know. And he started laughing. And it's one of those deals. I started laughing. And neither one of us could stop laughing. We're trying to invade, and here were these two warriors in the opposite end of the corner belly laughing at each other.
He's such a
strong
big,
like,
he's such a big, imposing guy, and we hear all this scary stuff about him like pulling a guy's eye out or biting a nose off or something. The picture
you realize that bankrupted him, right?
It did?
Yeah.
So
you're always a phony wrestler. You have trouble and you go to court, But no, Ming was like an asshole magnet. All the guys in the bar, the one guy to come up and go, "Hey, I want to." I'm like, brother, because Ming had grabbed me, go, first I eat you, or first I kill you, then I eat you. And I grabbed the guy, my brother, come here.
Yeah,
a couple of generations ago, your liver be on a stick. This ain't a stretch for this guy. and of course, he was hard. He was tough, obviously one of the toughest men in the business. Boom, boom, boom. But yeah, he bit the guy, and the guy sued him.
Were you there when he bit the guy's nose?
No.
What about when he pulled a guy's eye out?
No, I'm not. No, I know the bite story. The eye deal. I don't know about pulling all the way out. Yeah, but a lot of guys. I have your finger in your eye. You could, people say go for the groin, kick them in the nuts. I'm like, no, stick your finger in their eye.
That'll make
anybody definitely have their attention.
That'll make you quit a fight right away. Man, it's Haku. Nobody to screw with. You're gonna lose a body part if you mess with that guy.
Good man though. What a genuine friend. I'm an honor to call the guy a friend. He is a good man.
I've had the pleasure of being around him a couple of times, and such a kind person.
Yeah, in fact, we were making $40 a day. It was actually, that's a whole other story. I got beat up as a convict in Hawaii, and Haku's the guy came and pulled me out of the crowd to get me back to the dressing room.
What, the crowd? Like a bunch of people came after you?
Oh yeah. I'm the convict, right? And of course, all the white guys, the Hollies, are the heels. All the Island boys are the baby faces. So I run down, I trip see the Alfie. Boom, he takes a bump. We win 1, 2, 3. Now I'm heading back to the dressing room. We're in Pearl City. There's about 200 people there, but they're all Island folks. Here they come. I'm right out of the NFL. I'm like, okay, here we go. Let's go. First big Island guy come up. Boom, I racked him. He goes,
uh-oh.
These usually work. They were like fire ants, man. They were all over me. They beat the hell out of me. One guy comes up, I got my arm. I can see him coming with a chair, whacks me with a chair. Haku comes down. He drags me back to the dressing room like a bull after a bullfight. Drags me back to the dressing room. They got me in the dressing room, and all my buddies are all sitting around. I got my mask on there. They pull my mask off. They all go, ooh.
Well, that's not good.
I'm like, brother, it's not the Mona Lisa, but come on. But yeah, I learned an important lesson there. You do not fight the crowd. You fight your way through the crowd. And that has come into play many times over the years, especially back before sports entertainment. You'd have to fight. There'd be a wrestling riot. That was not rare. There'd be a riot. You'd have to fight your way through the crowd, but don't stand there and try to fight him.
Gotcha. So you stopped trying to leave and started fighting.
I'm like, yeah, all right, come on, I'll show you. Help.
Man, especially some of those tough Samoans in that area. Whew, boy, could be hard times.
But over the years, and then I learned another time, I was beating up Dick Slater, and he made a run for we were beating the hell out of him, and we're in the aisleway, and he's going almost to the dressing room. I'm like, let's get him, folks. He get back in the dressing room. Murdoch's like, what the hell are you doing?
Trying to get him killed.
Learning the business, Dick.
That's funny. Well, look, I don't think we're gonna beat that. We can call it a day here on the Hacksaw Hour. Jim, our first mailbag. This was a real blast.
What you call me?
What did I say? I said mailbag.
Hey, I got feelings too.
Jim, I can't thank you enough for joining us here. And folks, we'll be back here in 2 weeks with another episode with the Hall of Famer himself, Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Thanks, brother. Wait, here we go, brother. Let's do it, baby.
Let's do it. Oh! See you guys next time on the Hacksaw Hour.